Hello, everyone. My name's Aaron Christensen. This is Horror 101 with Dr. AC, celebrating classic horror throughout history with new episodes every Friday night. A few months back, we took a deep dive into the slashers of 1981, exploring 10 titles that helped define this much beloved and equally maligned subgenre. But as any horror fan knows, that year had far more blood to spill, and we're back to finish what we started. If the first wave was packed with future classics and franchise cornerstones, this week's episode showcases just how varied the slasher boom had become. Some films played it relatively straight. Final Exam strips the formula down to its bare essentials, creating tension on a sleepy college campus during the last days of classes, while Graduation Day mixes track and field competition with revenge-fueled mayhem, and an unmistakably early 80s soundtrack. Night School adds a police procedural angle to its campus carnage, complete with one of the more memorable killer disguises of the era, while Eyes of a Stranger injects voyeurism and vigilante justice into the mix, anchored by an impressive early performance from future Hollywood heavyweight Jennifer Jason Leigh. Others took stranger paths. Wes Craven's Deadly Blessing fuses religious paranoia, supernatural horror, and slasher conventions into one of the director's and star Sharon Stone's more overlooked efforts. While New Zealand's Strange Behavior blends mad science, teenage romance, and small-town conspiracy into a uniquely offbeat thriller that has continued to grow in reputation over the years. Then there are those that proudly march to the beat of their own deranged drum. Bloody Birthday imagines what happens when evil is literally born, via a clever blend of slasher mayhem and bad seed horror. And across the Atlantic, Jess Franco's Bloody Moon offers a splashy dose of European exploitation, piling on the graphic gore, outrageous set pieces, hilarious dubbing and dialogue, and enough sleaze to earn its enduring cult reputation. Meanwhile, Don't Go in the Woods dispenses with subtlety entirely, throwing a bevy of wilderness-bound victims into a relentless gauntlet of low-budget, high-splatter attacks, and proving that the slasher craze had already become a pop culture phenomenon, student bodies gleefully skewered the very conventions that so many filmmakers were busy establishing, years before self-aware horror was a thing. The body count is climbing and we're just getting started. Join us as we celebrate and or eviscerate 10 more servings of 1981 horror, celebrating the overlooked gems, cult favorites, regional oddities, ambitious experiments, and gloriously excessive carnage that made this such a banner year for slasher fans. All right, it's time to head back for the sequel to the slashers of 1981, a bounty of films that we're going to be diving into. And I have an incredible panel to dive into them with me. So let's bring everybody in. And let's say hello to Colleen Carney Hepner.
Hi.
Lauren Cupp.
Hi, it's good to be here. Thank you so much.
Freddie Young.
Hi. Horsehead bookends get me hot.
Fraser Coffeen.
Hi there. Thanks for listening.
And rounding out our bloody circle, Art Ettinger.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about a slew of slashers from 1981, starting with Bloody Birthday, Bloody Moon, Deadly Blessing, Don't Go in the Woods, Eyes of a Stranger, Final Exam, Graduation Day, Night School, Strange Behavior, aka Dead Kids, and Student Bodies, all from 1981, all celebrating their 45th anniversary. And we'll be talking spoilers, so just prepare yourselves, everybody. Thanks for coming on the show, and welcome. Wow. Okay, so yeah, back when we recorded this earlier this year, I was saying off camera that my original idea was that we were going to talk about all 20 of these films in one go. That was a ridiculous idea. Not that this is any less ridiculous. We are missing our panelist, Adam Rockoff, but we have an able replacement in the form of Lauren Cupp. Thank you for joining us in the doc's office for the first time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I looked at this list of movies and I'm like, I've never heard of any of these before, ever. This was quite a task, which I'm really glad you have pared down from the 20 that you had originally had in mind. But this was ultimately like really fun. Once you get into it, then you're in a groove of you kind of know what to expect. And it's really fun when, you know, something really surprises you about these movies. They was all ridiculous in their own way. It was so fun.
Yeah, that was something I actually noticed as well, is that there is a codifying of the slasher formula starting to emerge here. but there are still lots of directions that things head off into. Each one, I think, finds its own unique voice. Fraser, I know that you had to wait a long time to talk about Graduation Day. You first signed on for the slashes of 1980, I think, just to hold your spot so we could talk about Graduation Day. So when we dive deep into that one, I expect to have you front and center in class.
Oh, I'm excited.
Why don't we go ahead and kick things off with our first movie? We're going to be going in alphabetical order, talking about Bloody Birthday, directed by Ed Hunt and co-written with Darcy Pearson. Colleen, why don't we start things off with you? What'd you think of our killer kids?
I had a lot of fun with this. I actually watched this with my 13-year-old niece. I was like, I have to watch this movie for a podcast. Do you want to watch it with me? And she was like, sure. And she was like, what the hell is going on? I was like, I've never seen this before. I did have a lot of fun with this one. I love a killer kids thing. I loved this bit with the cop. And he's like, does anyone know what murder is? To this like class of like 8-year-olds. I was like, what is happening here? I loved like the psycho music ripoff. I loved just like these weird little bits. Like the girl has like no water in her fishbowl. And she's like, I love the kid in the fridge. It reminded me of the old Punky Brewster episode for people my age who watched Punky Brewster. And I had to explain to my niece that fridges used to lock from the inside. And if you went in them, they were like a huge suffocation issue. And she was just like so bent out of shape over the whole thing. I had a lot of fun with this movie. I thought it was great. And also it actually reminded me, there was the shot of the kid in the car and he smiles in the back seat. And I was like, oh, hello, Nightmare 1981. I remember this from before, like from our first episode. So yeah, this was new to me. Most of these were new to me. And I really, really enjoyed this one. It was high up there for me.
Yeah, our first half of our Slashes of 1981 episode was kind of the heavier hitters, at least ones that had a little more name recognition. And I remember, Art, you had great consternation that I had demoted Bloody Birthday to the second string. Please speak to that topic. This is definitely one of my faves. It was a matter of you had to split the line somewhere.
Let me just say at the outset, please do not panic, because I do not have nearly as much to say about most of these other movies as I do about Bloody Birthday. So don't think like, oh, we're going to be here all day if Art won't shut up. I do have quite a bit to say here. None of these movies were new to me. I had the good fortune, given my age and given where I grew up, I had incredible video stores growing up, and I actually had seen all of these in the VHS era. And one of the things that is absolutely fascinating to me is most of these movies are still in the zeitgeist, meaning three, not one, not two, but three of these movies have new releases coming out this month, which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
Deadly Blessing and Night School and Student Bodies all have imminent new releases, and Dead Kids has a 2026 recent reissue. So 4 out of these 10, and there could be more, were early in the year. So these are not lost, super obscure movies, and it's super cool that these are still in the zeitgeist. Anyway, Bloody Birthday is one of the 2 movies here that I'd seen the most times, the other being Final Exam. It has a 1980 copyright, but it didn't get released theatrically in the States until 1986. It first played in Detroit on April 11th, 86. Then it opened in several other cities. It was a big title on VHS and Beta, and it came out just after that on August 26th, 86 from Prison Entertainment. I have I wish I had a theatrical one sheet, but I have a video one sheet, and it says real big, currently in theatrical release, which they would do sometimes when a movie was currently in theaters. So that's one of the show and tell items for the day here. It's an interesting idea to take the bad seed concept into the slasher era. The idea, I think, from what I can glean, is that these 3 kids were born without a conscience, right? During an eclipse in 1970, and then now it's 1980, and all hell breaks loose. Julie Brown was a big MTV celebrity and when I was a kid, but not yet when it was made, or even by the time it hit theaters. When we lived in Madison, Wisconsin for a few years, where I went to law school, Alana, my significant other, she worked with Robert Feldman, this guy who was the key grip on Bloody Birthday and Maniac and a bunch of other movies. And he had these cool little black and white photo albums of shots that he took, like stills that he personally took on the sets of these movies, which he shared with us. There's just a lot of odd elements to this movie. Jose Ferrer has this tiny little cameo in the beginning. It's like, what's he doing here? And then two of the child performers pop up in Hospital Massacre, also known as X-Ray, another personal favorite, which was made at around the same time. You can kind of date aspects of this movie. There's a magazine being read at one point. So I think Friday the 13th either was released while this movie was being made or just before this movie was being made. The filmmakers definitely saw it. It almost feels like they felt the need to throw more slasher tropes into a movie that otherwise wasn't, it's more supposed to be like a bad kid movie. Some of the imagery in the movie that didn't seem so shocking back in the day, just seeing like a kid that age with a gun in his hand is fairly shocking these days. But no, it's always been a personal favorite of mine. It has this just kind of like sleazy vibe to it that gets me going. I'm glad that it's a movie that has not faded away. Arrow released it on Blu. All 10 of these movies are available on Blu-ray, which is another testament to them not being super obscure. And it seems to be increasing in popularity. It's a pretty common meme. You'll see like people wishing each other happy birthday on Facebook with the poster art from Bloody Birthday. So hopefully it's a movie that keeps expanding as far as its audience. And yeah, it's definitely a household favorite here.
I actually got to watch Bloody Birthday on my birthday this year in prep for this, so that was fun. Fraser, over to you. What are your thoughts on this one?
I'd seen this once a couple years ago and was sort of fine with it. I didn't really dislike it, but I was sort of like, meh. And then when I rewatched it this time, I was like, I don't know what I didn't like about this. This is great. This is a joy. Maybe I was in a mood. It's so much fun. There's a lot that I really enjoyed about it. It's weird. It's a weird, odd little movie in many ways. Aaron, you already mentioned earlier, I think a thing we're going to come back to a lot in this discussion is this sort of codifying of the slasher genre. And this one has, like you said, Art, it has some elements maybe that they put in to lean more into it. But it's definitely, it's definitely not all the way there. I mean, we know who the killers are very quickly. There's no like mystery surrounding that. But there's just a lot of like kind of off-kilter weird things that are the things that we love. The kids are great. I think they give really fun performances. I think they all do a really, really good job. And I love the one who's just like Curtis, who's just like running around shooting people. That guy's just willing to shoot anybody, like through their window, wherever. He's got his gun and he's here for shooting.
Kids knew how to have fun before they were glued to their devices all day long.
It's true. Yeah. Just enjoying a night out, back in the free range, the free range 80s. Yeah. And we don't get a lot of guns in slashers. That's not a pretty common weapon. So I think that's interesting. I love the shot of my favorite shot in the whole thing is when the kid pops up in the car with his little white hood on, and then there's the whole car chase. I love that so much. And then the one other thing I'll say that I really enjoyed about it, Colleen, you mentioned some of there's a little bit of like the Psycho score and things like that. There's a lot. I sort of started keeping track of it. There's a ton of things that I have to think they're consciously drawing upon. The cemetery opening feels, there's a real phantasm vibe to the cemetery scene in the beginning. There's the score which has elements of Psycho, elements of Friday the 13th. There's obviously like the Bad Seed, Village of the Damned type thing going on. It's Chief Brody. When they're walking along in the girls at one point, it's very Halloween, and then one of their dad, who's the sheriff, pulls up, which again, I mean, there's a lot of that stuff that you're like, oh, you're very conscious of the genre that you're in, which again is something that I think is a little new here. We'll see that a lot more later when we get to like Student Bodies especially, but like there's a consciousness of the genre that I thought was interesting.
I definitely picked up on the Chief Brody thing.
Yeah. Well, and I also feel like what we're seeing is what can we give to the genre that hasn't been seen yet? And, Art mentioned Bad Seed, we're getting Bad Seed times 3, like how can we amp things up a bit? Freddie, over to you. What are your thoughts on this one?
This is my favorite of the bunch that we're talking about. I love this movie. Actually, the first time I actually watched this was back when I rented DVDs from Netflix. Back when they used to do that.
Little red envelope.
Yeah. I watched this with The Pit. That was a double feature. Both Evil Kid movies, both awesome. Yeah, just a weird movie. I love Evil Kid movies, period. I think they're so entertaining. Just about Curtis, Billy Jacoby, who I've seen in Parker Lewis Can Lose, just one of the guys. He's been on a lot of stuff. Probably the best kid actor in the movie. So evil, so good. Julie Brown is great. I love the whole peephole thing with the sister. And she's like the little girl, I think of the three has the biggest, most of the conscience because she kind of understands the right and the wrong kind of, but she still wants to do like the bad stuff. And she's kind of like, the leader of the group. Unfortunately, that blonde kid doesn't do anything. I don't know why he was there to begin with.
I felt so bad for Steven. Like Steven gets nothing and Curtis does everything.
Yeah. It's very much like an 80s kids movie where it almost feels like an after school special in a lot of ways. It's very the way it's filmed, the way it's like drawn out. It's so like it's like a message, like don't be like this evil, bad thing's gonna happen to you. I love the little girl's mom kind of enabling it, the kid's behavior. She kind of just like, well, she's my kid. She killed my husband. Who doesn't matter. That's my daughter. I'm gonna love her no matter what. I'm also a big astrology person, so this movie appeals to me on that level. The idea of the eclipse kind of take away the souls of kids. Yeah, also like this. Yeah, the kid with the gun. I think that's shocking today. We'll get more into that with Final Exam, which is a much bigger issue in terms of that. But yeah, I love this movie. I think this movie is great. I'm glad it's still talked about. I think when Happy Death Day came out, it was another birthday slasher. I think this one got a lot more prominence where people were talking about it more about birthday slashers. Like Happy Birthday to Me was another one that came up. So I think that's great. And I definitely get this. It's such a good movie.
I'm glad you mentioned the look of the film because our director of photography, Stephen Posey, like he has an amazing CV. He did Savage Streets with Linda Blair, Friday the 13th, New Beginning, Hellhole, Slumber Party Massacre. Like he's somebody that people should delight when his name pops up in the credits.
He's like a very sleazy looking movie, like exploitation kind of looking, grindhouse looking movie, which I kind of dig.
Lauren, up to you.
I really, really enjoyed this one. At the same time, it is probably one of the many reasons I look at movies. I'm like, I don't think I want kids, especially if they're, 10 years later going to turn into, little homicidal maniacs. When we were talking about Curtis, I'm like, he's the smart kiss ass. The moment I saw Steven, I'm like, oh, you're absolutely 5 minutes in, you're a murderer. Mm-hmm. That was like my first. I'm like, oh yeah, that kid's a murderer. This one was really fun. The triumphant music kind of coming in every now and again that just made it seem like a after school special. It was really, really fun. I know someone mentioned that earlier. The kids just had this agency, and I guess that just comes with a lack of empathy or a lack of conscience. You can either have a conscience and not be good at things, or you can be really good at things and just kill your entire neighborhood.
It helps to have grown up in the 70s and 80s because we were just left to our own devices. So of course we were reading all our Time Life books and learning how to do things.
Yeah, there's the books that came out when I was a late teen were like the daring book for girls and the dangerous book for boys, where it was, those books about how to go outside and do things for yourself.
Yep.
Or, how to fold a paper airplane or tie a knot, or God forbid, if you're a girl, cook a egg souffle or something.
Ooh, Art mentioned Jose Ferrer, Oscar winner Jose Ferrer, showing up as the doctor. We also have Susan Strasberg, daughter of Lee Strasberg, and Michael Dudikoff, the American Ninja himself, shows up in a small role. So yes, this one is a ton of fun. It's one I love going back to over and over again. So I was glad to kick things off with this one.
I can also add that I really did also like the astrology aspect in this. I thought it was going to play a bigger role and maybe turn it into something supernatural. And I wish there was more of that astrology aspect to talk about.
Yeah, we had Killing to get to, so we didn't have time for more astrology. We're going to take a quick hop across the pond from Jess Franco, and it's Bloody Moon. And I just want to see the big smiles come all around the panel because I don't know that you can take it seriously. It reminds me a lot of Pieces, not quite as outrageous and gory, but certainly as silly. And the dialogue is phenomenal. Freddie, let's go ahead and kick things off with you. What are your thoughts about Bloody Moon from Jess Franco?
Yeah, I was going to say the Pieces comparison. That just reminds me of that movie. Just a weird ass movie. This is just a fun, really terrible, but terribly fun movie. The dubbing is so bad in this movie. Oh my god, it's just a weird vibe, like the incest angle and the guy with the face. Like no one he has a thing on his face, but no one really notices. Like it's just like, oh okay, it's just this guy with a weird thing on his face. Okay, whatever. A lot of disco,
clearly a prosthetic on his face.
Yeah, a lot of disco dancing, a lot of sex, a lot of nudity. Very European, very just Franco. I dig it. I think the vibe. I think is a well-made slasher considering the quality of the movie. I think a lot of the kill scenes are pretty cool. The snake scene I kind of don't like.
Nope.
That's a big thing. It's like Friday 13th when they kill the snake, same kind of deal. The twist at the end with the killer. You kind of expect the guy with the face to be the killer, but he's not the killer.
Right.
His whole incestuous thing about money, so convoluted, but it's just so much fun getting there. It feels like summer to me, this movie. And it's just like funky. Like, these people must smell, and it's just fluids going around probably, and it's just like very nasty. But I kind of like that vibe. I kind of like how dirty it is and how weird it is, and just like probably the movie of this bunch that's so weird and so out there compared to the other ones that it just sticks out, and it's just so great. And I can't wait to talk about Pieces next year because that's a big one for next year. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. To be honest with you, I love that movie.
Yep.
So, and this one reminded me of it. I had a smile on my face the whole time. Just like, this is just great. Like, this is so bad, but I'm enjoying how bad this is.
The dubbing was so bad. It was so funny. I had a really good time trying to lip read and see, like, okay, so what are they trying to say in Spanish? Okay. I had such a fun time with this, especially with the music. I watch all of these movies with captions, and my favorite caption in this movie is somber electric guitar. That vibe is the entire movie. This felt very much like a soap opera. Miguel kind of coming in at the last minute and hearing this stuff that, with his sister saying that Miguel disgusts her, and now he's going to go on a murderous rampage to kill her, and he's not the killer, and all of this stuff happens at the end and makes it like a really fun, like over dramatized soap. I also had a lot of fun watching this woman get pierced in the boob. I thought that was like pretty great. It was a really fun kill in that one.
Yeah, not quite sure how that went down, but
it did.
That is a fun kill. I'm a huge Jess Franco fan. Some of my favorite movies are Vampiros Lesbos, She Killed in Ecstasy. This one was new to me. I mean, he has like 137 movies or something like that. And I'm like, I'm going to go through all of them in order, which is just like an insane thing to say. But someday I will do it. But anyway, I did have a lot of fun with this because I just love how bizarre Jess Franco was. Like, everything is so psychosexual. You can't just be like a murderer. You have to have like an incestual angle. And then my very few notes, I had so much fun with this that I didn't write too many notes, but why would you bring your murderous brother to the all-girls school that you run? Like, it's just like a bad idea. Why are you doing that? But it's just, well, why not, I guess, right?
She can blame him for all the murders. That's how.
Yes, exactly. Amazing decapitation in that one scene. One of my main notes just says interesting. Because I think Jess Franco movies they're just interesting. He just didn't really care too much about, like, is this necessarily a competent or a good narrative? Maybe not, but like he was kind of going on vibes alone, and I love that. I 100% agree with terrible but terribly fun and feels like summer. This does feel like just a grimy summer movie. It's hot. You're sweating bullets and you're watching this like bizarre movie where this like his prosthetic looks like they just put a bunch of like glue on his face and just let it dry. It's just so silly. I genuinely loved this movie. I think it's great. I love everything I've ever seen of Jess Franco. I've loved.
Well, I knew that you were a Franco fan, so I wasn't sure if you'd seen this one before. So I'm delighted to have been the conduit for you to find it.
You could call me a Franco-phile.
I will. Art.
Yeah, so this was a movie that I rented again on VHS, and it's probably one of the earlier Franco movies I saw. The VHS release from Trans World Entertainment back in the day. It was also released in Canada on CIC Home Video, which was a highly collectible VHS label. Franco's an interesting director, right? Like, this movie is, of course, super campy, mainly, well, largely because of the ADR and dubbing, which is an aesthetic that we all just kind of come to accept after watching a lot of these movies. But the main Franco touches are just these lavish locations and cinematography that are just beautiful. You have this schlocky movie, but then you have these lavish locations and cinematography. It's clearly a Euro attempt to ride the slasher wave. With the, of course, the addition of the absurdist dubbing. I remember having originally seen it on VHS when Severin released it. That was like a true revelation quality-wise. It was like night and day from what I had seen before. This movie did not play theatrically in the States, as far as I can tell. I really like the scene in the scenes in the language lab. That technology with those giant headphones is just super fun. I do enjoy the hell out of this movie. I wish I loved it as much as I love Pieces. I know my good friend Nathaniel Thompson of Mondo Digital, he puts this almost right up there with Pieces. This is a movie that he will gladly talk about anytime, any day, as one of the most entertaining campy movies. I've never been like a so bad it's good kind of guy. Like I laugh with a movie like this, not at it, because you do have grade A cinematography, these lavish, beautiful locations, and of course it's goofy. But I never understand the horror fan who's like Argento's serious and Fulci's camp. Like, have you listened to the dubbing in Argento movies? Like, It's like pretty fucking goofy, right? These movies weren't shot with sync sound. Art house movies are the same way from Europe at that time period. It's kind of an aesthetic that you learn to accept. That having been said, this is a goofy as hell movie, certainly. I wish I could connect with it a little bit more. I do like it, but it's never been a personal favorite like Pieces is. But when I rewatched this group of movies, really, 9 out of 10 of them, I had a whole lot of fun with, and even the 10th one, I still liked more than I had previously. So yeah, really good batch of movies.
Cool. Over to you, Fraser. Had you seen this one before?
No, I have not. I had not. Okay. And I'm so excited now to find out what Art's 10th movie is. What is the outline? We'll find out eventually. Don't spoil it. No, I had not seen it before, and I've seen very, very little Jess Franco, to be honest. So this was an exciting venture into that world. It was immediately super European, obviously, right? And what's so funny? It's so funny that everybody's bringing up the dubbing. I think, like many of us, I watch a ton of Italian horror stuff, and as a result, I kind of didn't even notice. Like as you're all saying this, I'm like, I guess it probably was bad. I just phased that out. It just is what it is. But I really did like that European take on it, right? We used the word earlier, somebody used the word melodrama, and it really did have that. It felt a lot like some of the stuff that I really love about Mario Bava when he's dipping into that world, when he's in like his mode of like Hatchet for the Honeymoon and like Lisa and the Devil, and giving over to that kind of soap opera melodrama feel. I'm a big fan of that. And it did prompt me to sort of think a little bit as I was watching it about like, well, where exactly is the kind of slasher giallo line? It's a pretty fuzzy distinction between, there is some, but they cross over in certain ways. And there were aspects of this that leaned, maybe because of the European aspect, that leaned more into that giallo, especially that like, the motive, right? It's I feel like oftentimes with the slasher, it's either just like they're evil, like Michael Myers, or they're out for revenge, like Jason, right? But your giallo killers tend to be more like greed, inheritance, some sort of lofty, things like this that are kind of convoluted and deal with like, centuries of family drama or things like that. So I really liked that aspect was in it, but that it still maintained this real slasher element with some great kills. I can't believe that only once until now has the Saw thing been brought up. I figured that would be the only thing that we talked about. It's of course also titled The Saw of Death, depending on what release you see. And that Saw sequence was incredible. And then after he cuts the head off with the saw, he's like, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to run over a child. Just, let's just throw that in there too, just in case you didn't have enough. When that sequence happened, those two kills back to back, I really was like, Oh, I wish I was watching this in a theater. I wish I was with an audience, because like the response to that segment with an audience would just be glorious. So yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. It wasn't my like absolute favorite of the things here, but I really liked it, and it did make me be like, I got to watch a lot more Jess Franco.
Might I suggest Vampiro
Please.
Lesbos?
Yeah.
Okay. In.
Excellent.
The intersection of Giallo and slasher is pretty interesting around this time period. You get people who like would refuse to describe something like New York Ripper as a slasher movie just because it's Italian, but it's a slasher movie.
That's a slasher movie.
Slasher movie. Same thing is Pieces. I mean, it's from Spain, but is that a slasher movie? I think so. You could be more than one, certainly. I think Bloody Moon is a good example of you have a little bit of both going on.
And we've talked about the dubbing, but what we haven't talked as much about is the dialogue and the actual like things that are coming out of people's mouths. Like the lead up to the Saw moment is her like going, "Oh, I guess I'll be tied up now." And you're just like this whole like ongoing monologue while her killer says nothing to her, but she's taking up all the air, so it's just fine. The language, like where they're all like repeating but not repeating, and I'm like, I don't even know how this school works. There's just so much fun things being said and then being said oddly through the dubbing. So I agree. I think this one is just a hoot. I always have a great time with it. Yes, it is much more fun, Fraser, with a crowd. I've had the benefit of seeing it with people, and that's the way to watch this movie for sure. Zipping ahead to another household name, Wes Craven, directing Deadly Blessing. Let's go ahead and kick things off with you on that one, Fraser. I don't know if you'd seen that one before or not.
I have seen that one before, but it's been a while. Like I think I saw it when I was something like 15, and then not again since then. So I did not remember it very well at all. But I really liked it. I mean, it's Wes Craven, so especially in comparison to some of these other things that we are watching, no slight on them, but it automatically has like, he's shooting it very well, right? It looks really good. There's a level of production that's in it immediately. You've got Ernest Borgnine just like being, ridiculously incredible. Like he's so good. His performance is incredible. You got a young Sharon Stone being like, "Oh yeah, I see why you became like really, really big." Got all of these like really good, more kind of sleek qualities to it. I had completely forgotten that he just a couple years later would be like, "You know what? I think it's okay if I just rip myself off in Nightmare on Elm Street with this bathtub scene. I don't think enough people have seen Deadly Blessing that it's going to cause any kind of problem. So we're just gonna do that again." Like almost shot for shot in parts. I was sort of blown away by that piece. The end is great. The end is fantastic. I have complex views about Craven. Like I feel like at his best, he's really, really good. Like really good. But when I compare him against some of the other, kind of great horror directors, I oftentimes feel like, he's got these like real high-end things, and then it feels like he kind of goes off the cliff like a lot faster than like a lot of the big names do. Like for me at least, I don't. He doesn't have as many that are high up here. Or Carpenter. I'm sorry. He's got some bad movies. Some of them are bad. There's some bad ones. I maybe when I rewatch Swamp Thing, I'll be like, this is brilliant. Maybe that'll happen. Or Shocker. But see,
well,
so
to echo what Art expressed, I would say that all of our beloved horror directors have some moments where they don't always live up to their full potential.
This is
I think Craven definitely has more highs and a higher overall threshold than most, but that's just my thought. Art, since you're eager to say things, let's say things.
I know I'm going to get in trouble from Art here.
No. I'm just trying to have a little bit of levity here. I know exactly what you're saying. But Craven is, like, who else did Last House on the Left and Hills Have Eyes, then came back with Elm Street, then comes back with Scream. Like, how many decades and beyond of horror were shaped by Wes Craven and Cunningham? So, I mean, to me, when you talk to horror fans about what movies, made them into horror fans, like the way that most or many horror fans talk about something like John Carpenter's The Thing or Dawn of the Dead. For me, that movie is Last House on the Left. Last House on the Left is like, I love Last House on the Left more than most people love their moms. Like, I fucking adore this thing. Many people will never love any inanimate or animate thing as much as I like Last House on the Left. And so one of the things, like, so Deadly Blessing is one of the only movies that we're talking about today that did have like a wide theatrical release all at once, opening on August 14th of 1981. And even though this was the fifth movie directed by Wes Craven, it's the first of his movies that was both shot on 35 millimeter and released theatrically. Summer of Fear was his first one shot on 35 millimeter. We talked about Sharon Stone having her first speaking role here. She exudes confidence. Having Ernest Borgnine elevates it. Michael Berryman's always great. The writer of the best Friday the 13th movie, Martin Kittrosser, served as the script supervisor on it. It looks incredible, and it's well paced. It gets a little bit silly, the tacked on ending. I think it's cool, the one scene where a movie theater is shown playing Craven's TV movie. It's kind of funny that you could, it's from the same producers, and that's maybe why, but it's kind of funny that it's a movie that didn't play theaters. And Universal was originally supposed to distribute it, but Polygram pulled that deal back when they could get wider distribution from United Artists. There's two different warring Blu-rays already out from Scream Factory and Arrow, and they have different extras. They have two different commentaries from Craven. The one moderated by David Gregory, which I think is the older one, but then came back more recently and was originally on an Umbrella DVD, I think, back in the day, is the one that really had the most cool information. But Kino is releasing it again with yet another batch of extras at the end of this month. So I guess I'll have a third Blu-ray of Deadly Blessing. I hadn't watched this movie in a really long time. It's always fun to see connections between directors' other movies. Of course, you have the bathtub scene. I've heard Wes Craven. I got to meet Wes Craven once, which was I'm very glad I did. But Wes Craven talked about how people would watch Last House on the Left, and it would almost offend him or piss him off when the thing they remembered the most about it was the nightmare sequence with the dentist, where he wakes up and his teeth are being worked on, and like he's like, man, dreams really the idea of dreams are really interesting to people. And he kept bringing dreams back into his movies over and over again, up to and including, he has a dog having a dream in The Hills Have Eyes too. The guy is obsessed with dreams. But the bathtub scene is one of the things I remember when, I don't mean to go off topic here, and I swear I'm almost done here. We have the sleepaway camp type ending. We've always had gender bending endings. From Psycho is one of the most notable ones, but this is a couple years before sleepaway camp where we have this it's a boy, not a girl. I don't know if everyone remembers this, but when the Nightmare on Elm Street remake was being discussed, one of the things that some really, really ignorant fans were arguing about is they were really pissed that in the remake, Freddy Krueger was described as a child molester, when in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, he was referred to as a child murderer. Well, first of all, Wes Craven always called him a child molester in interviews. But second of all, what do you think the tongue coming out of the phone and the hand coming between her legs are supposed to, he's a child molester, right? Like, he's a perv. That's what the tongue's about. That's what the hand's about. Genius. So that was a really stupid argument. That was like horror fans at their worst. I'm like, you got to be out, like that's what you're arguing about. He's a child molester. Okay, it's not a matter of opinion. He sticks his hand between her legs, right? Like, it's not. It's right there. It's not like subtext, right? But it is interesting. You could watch those two scenes side by side. It's really, really interesting when a director rips themselves off to that extent. But Michael Berryman, can you imagine? People way more famous than him can put on a hat and go to the grocery store. He's one of the most recognizable people. Like, he cannot hide. So if you're Michael Berryman, every day of your life, everywhere you go, people know who you are.
This is a movie that I wasn't sure if I had seen before, and I'm still a little unsure, but I think ultimately I've seen the ending as hey, here's a fun twist, right? With this incubus coming, the incubus was real the whole time. I think that's it, because none of the rest of the movie is memorable to me. So I think that's the situation. I liked this movie a lot. I like anything with a religious angle. I was raised Catholic. So anything with a religious angle is fun for me. I liked this like bizarre, like we're excommunicated, but we live next to like my family who hates me. Like, why would you live there? You could live anywhere else. Move to Omaha. I don't know. Sharon Stone, it was really fun to see her in such like an early role. She's great. I forget the gal's name, but she was in Dallas again with Alec Baldwin. And no, Knots Landing. I'm sorry. And she's great. You know, the friends are great. Oh, we're gonna come and help you out because your husband died. Even though this is like literally the creepiest situation in the whole world. One of my notes was Michael Berryman is so much older than the rest of the kids. He's like, looks like he's 35. And he's like, I'm gonna break into this barn. I'm like, dude, I love Last House on the Left as well, but I am a huge Shocker defender. And it might be, I know Lauren knows this about me, but not a Scream fan. So I will go to bat for Shocker before I go to bat for Scream any day. When it got to the she's a man the whole time thing, like I rolled my eyes and I wrote, she's a man is so ugh. But thinking about it now as we're talking about it, I'm not thinking of it from 1981. I'm thinking of it from 2026, where it's like we've seen this just so many times that I'm like it would have been infinitely more interesting if it was like, oh, she's a woman. She's just like obsessed with this gal. Like that's more interesting to me. But the ending is just so fun, I think. Like, oops, that was real the whole time. Ernest Borgnine is hilarious in this. Like, why is he even there? I love it. I think it's so silly. And I remember after I watched it, I read like the Wikipedia article where there was like, I forget who it was attributed to, where they were talking about how it's interesting, like the sexual politics of this, because the character that is like considerably, I guess, the most sluttiest, like nothing happens to her at all. And like this girl is like punished when she was like, well, it was like she got married and she was like just a loving wife to her husband, and she gets punished for it. And usually in these types of movies, it's like, you know, the minute you take off your shirt, you're murdered. So it's like, I thought that was like an interesting little like viewpoint to have about it. I really liked this. I had a lot of fun with it.
I remember seeing this on HBO back in the day. In revisiting it, there are so many kind of like disparate elements. Like, yes, it's a slasher. Yes, it's a supernatural movie. Yes, it's a story of you know, families torn apart. There's so much going on, which is why I always find it interesting, even within what might be considered as flaws. I agree with Fraser. I think it's a really well-made movie. And I think it offers you enough left turns that you're kind of like, even if you're like, well, this isn't what I signed on for, I still have a really good time with it.
One of my favorite scenes in the whole movie was when Michael Berryman's character is missing and the dad is so distraught. Yeah. And she's like, well, if I find him, I'll bring him home to you. What one is your farm? And he's like, oh, it's like right down. And Ernest Borgnine's like, no, she sucks. But I
don't get in the devil car, you know, don't get in the devil car.
I was just like, I was like so like touched by how like this guy was like, I don't care who she is if it means my son will come home. And I have a hard time with like kid stuff, even though again Michael Berryman looks like he's like 40 in this, but I just have a hard time with like kid stuff. And I was like really emotional over that scene. I was like, do not cry or get like emotional over a 1981 Wes Craven like slasher movie. Don't do it. But I really liked that scene. I thought like everyone in it is acting really well. And I don't agree with like some things I read where they're like, Ernest Borgnine's super hokey in it. I thought he was great in it.
I just want to say, when you said the left turns and anything like that coming up, I totally agree with that. And that was, I think, one of the best aspects of it, that it had this mystery element that comes in early. Like about halfway through, you start to be like, is she the incubus? Maybe she is. Craven does a great job of like kind of sort of, you know, setting the seeds for that as it goes along. So it does have these left turns, but they're not cheap left turns, because he's setting them up and he's making you question from a really early stage, which I think is really well done. I
didn't enjoy the movie the first half that I watched, and then I kind of like rewound back. I just don't think I was in the right headspace, and I'm like, oh, this is actually really interesting when John is kind of excommunicated from the Hittites, and then he starts kind of joining in with, he ends up going to the movies and he ends up driving a car. I thought that was a really cute scene when he was driving the car and just like doing donuts in fields. I thought that was really cute. I really do think Sam Raimi looked at the ending and said, "Oh, I want that for Drag Me to Hell." Because that ending is just it's so fun. And my favorite shot is when it then the floor kind of collapses back in on itself in a reverse shot. I want to echo Michael Berryman. It's just super fun in this movie. Ernest Borgnine, I really do feel it's not hokey. You pulled someone from the Hittite community and put them in this movie. He absolutely does such a phenomenal job being like the stern leader of this community, but just incredibly funny at the same time. Here we are for 2 for 2 with snake kills back to back. I don't love watching snakes get killed. Almost as much as I do not enjoy watching spiders at all, because there were too many spiders for me in this movie to be comfortable. And I understand like a symbolism of like, you know, being caught in this web, being very like seduced and caught in this web of the incubus, and that, you know, spiders represent that and all this stuff. But no spiders for me, but I did see and appreciate the symbolism in that.
Down to you, Freddie.
Yeah, this is not one of my favorite Craven films, but I do like it. I think it's really well made, like everyone said. The acting, Ernest Borgnine, Sharon Stone. I love her dream sequences. I thought the one she's on the bed, I thought the cover, the poster cover image. Yeah, I think that's a great scene. Really well shot. I love that Craven wanted the film to look like a Van Gogh painting, and it does in a lot of ways. Look like the houses, the way things are framed, how picturesque it is. The whole idea of spirituality. That obviously Craven loves religion. He was born in a very strict religious household, so that to him means a lot to him. You can tell he put a lot of his heart into this movie. I don't like the whole she's a man thing here. I think in Sleepaway Camp it works because it kind of builds to that, and you kind of wondering what's the deal with Angela. But here, I don't think it really works. I think it's just there just to shock people, but it doesn't really shock. It's just like, is this really necessary? Like, we have the whole incubus thing going on. We don't really need this. Also, it doesn't really relate to anything. I like the idea of them killing the community. I just don't like her being a man, really.
I'd actually forgotten that was even a thing. Like, I'd forgotten that element, and then I went, oh, that's right. That is part of it. But again, I agree. It doesn't really have anything to pay off with.
Yeah, and I don't like that they're so really like out there with how weird they are either. It's kind of like it's too obvious too. Like, I go, okay, I know what's going on here. The ending I love, like Drag Me to Hell. That's what I thought of when I watched it again. I was like, that definitely Drag Me to Hell. I like this one a lot. I just don't think it's like great or anything. I think this builds into Nightmare on Elm Street, which is a great movie in itself. I think the whole bathtub scene, the snakes, the spiders. I hate spiders. I'm very arachnophobic, so I did not like those scenes at all. First sleeping and seeing the spider on the ceiling, that would have freaked me out. I would just run out of the room and just burn the whole room down and be like, okay, sorry, I gotta go. There's a lot of good stuff in here. There's a lot of stuff about religion, a lot of stuff about family, about fitting into communities, like superstition and beliefs, and are monsters real? Are these like an incubus real, the devil real? All these people just out of touch with reality. Like the cars being the devil thing, like the electricity don't use that. I find that stuff interesting, like because that still happens today, which is very weird. Like internet is still out there, but no one. These people are still like in their little bubble, which I kind of find fascinating. So I kind of like that aspect, but I think on the whole, like I think this is maybe one of his middle of the road movies for me. But I still enjoy it and I still watch it. This rewatch was great. I love like seeing like young Sharon Stone, who you could tell was gonna be a big star after this. Ernest Borgnine, Michael Berryman, I loved this movie. So there's a lot of good stuff in here. I just don't think as a whole it works completely.
Two more names I want to mention. James Horner does our music. James Horner, who would go on to do many, many, many big movies. And then our director of photography, Robert Jessup, 2 movies, Race with the Devil and Silent Rage. Cool. Let's bounce ahead to Don't Go in the Woods, directed by James Bryan. This is just a riot. I remember having just so much fun with this one. We've watched it on Turkey Day. Curious to hear what people thought of it. Art, let's go and kick things off with you.
Don't Go in the Woods is one of those movies where it's just remarkable how widely distributed a movie of this nature can get. I mean, it had a really slow rollout theatrically. It opened on November 20th of 81, and that was just in Utah and Idaho. And then it didn't make it to New York City till July 1st of 1983. But then you have the advent of home video, and Vestron Video, the same company that theatrically has a hit with a little movie called Dirty Dancing, has this movie. So the people who own Dirty Dancing have Don't Go in the Woods. It's in every video store. You can't escape it. Like any place that rents videos, at least where I grew up, had Don't Go in the Woods. Eventually, you're renting Don't Go in the Woods. The people involved with it seem to enjoy themselves. These Blu-ray releases of it have 3 commentary tracks, an hour-long set of interviews with the cast and crew. So that's interesting for a regionally made, goofy movie. It's so goofy, so gory. I think what hurts this movie from being as great as it could be is it just becomes so badly paced. Like it starts off so well paced, so fast, and bam, 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 bam. Then all of a sudden it just like plods. And you're like, how is this movie slowing down? I mean, and it's one of the slasher movies that introduces characters just for them to get killed, which ended up being a trope in some of the better Friday the 13th movies. But Don't Go in the Woods, a lot of fun. But in the end, even though it's a short movie, it could use some more trimming for sure. Like trim it down another 10 minutes and you might have a true classic. No, I think it's fascinating just that it got out there the way it did. And it is a lot of fun for most of its running time.
And it is the second of our video nasties that we're talking today. Over to you, Freddie.
I'm just going to make this short and sweet. I hate this movie. I'm not a big fan. I've never been a fan of this movie. Joe Bob actually showed this movie on The Last Drive-In like a few months ago. I never wanted to rewatch that movie ever again. I was like, oh, fine, I'll watch it. Why not? 1 star for Cherry and Dick. That whole scene is the best scene in the whole movie, where she's just yelling, "Dick, where are you, Dick? Dick, come back, Dick!" I die every time I watch that. It's just so funny. It's just a random, badly paced movie. I think the artist in the woods with her baby, like, why is she there? I don't get it. The soundtrack with the basketball dribbling is just annoying. The killer is not interesting at all. It could be a great slasher. There's elements there. You could tell like the filmmakers really cared about what they were making, but at the same time, I would never want to watch this again. I just think this, of all the movies that we watched, this is definitely the worst one. It's unfortunate because I like to come here and be positive, but I really can't. It's awful.
Colleen.
Okay, I'll be quick with this as well. I did not care much for this movie, and here's a funny thing. I put this on right after I watched Bloody Birthday with my niece, and she was like, "I can't do this," and she like left. She was like, "No." My husband was like, "Yeah, we've watched this before. The killer's like that caveman guy," and I was like, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about." And then when it got to, I was like, "Oh, I still have no memory of it." So I think I did see it before, but it's just, and I am not someone who does not like stupid movies. I have recently started a podcast all about that kind of thing. Lauren and I just watched Fear.com. It was excruciating. But this movie is just, my main note was I'd rather be watching Redneck Zombies, because to me it has that same sort of very independent energy as Redneck Zombies, but I love Redneck Zombies and I do not care much for this. The girl with the baby, again, I get like super about kids, but I was like, this baby, why would you do that? Why would you be painting for hours in the woods with your baby? Just like, if I do take away that the baby will be okay with its hatchet, like it's like a 1-year-old baby. Clearly some of the actors just straight up reading off of a sheet at one point. I wrote doctor's voice horrendous. As much as I love a bad movie, this bad movie just doesn't work for me on a lot of levels. I do think it's funny that they all sound like they took somebody off the street and said, "Do you want to be in a movie real quick? Can you just say this?" But for the most part, like I said, I'd rather be watching Redneck Zombies.
We'll only need you for a few minutes, I promise. Fraser.
I feel like it ends up being inadvertently this like weird avant-garde art house movie where it's like plot, no. Motivation, no. Characters, no. Like momentum, nope. None of those things. It's just people in the woods getting hacked up, and here it is. It's like David Lynch making a slasher incompetently. It's a weird structure where it just does it, and it has this weird discordant score to just really add to that.
Oh yeah.
Art brought up that it has these, it introduces, I don't know if it introduces, but it definitely has these like no-name characters, right? That, like you said, that we would become a real staple of the genre, especially as we got later in the 80s. But it doesn't do it right. It will just be like it doesn't build any tension with them at all. It'll just be like, here's 2 people walking in the woods and then they have their head cut off. Okay, let's move on to something else. That's not how you do that. That's like, I understand what you're going for, but that was incorrect. I did kind of enjoy it because of that bizarreness to it, and because I did end up having kind of a good time being like, what a weird thing this is. My two favorite little bits in it are, number one, I think that the wheelchair bit is great. That it takes him, they come back. It's like the only piece of coherent plot in the movie. That this guy just sort of constantly is trying to get to the top of the hill, and we come back to him again and again, and then he gets to the top of the hill and he's instantly beheaded. That's great. And I love my favorite line that I wrote down. I'm going to quote it exactly here. It comes from one of the policemen who says, "We've got dead campers. Don't know who, don't know how many."
That is the tagline for this movie.
Yeah.
Lauren.
That's so funny.
I'm going to start by saying that I went to my local video rental store, and this was one of the 2 movies I was able to rent.
God bless you and your video store.
Shout out Be Kind Video in Burbank. Yeah, this was a movie that I watched. I thought the baby at the end was very funny because I made up this whole narrative that this baby now becomes a wild man. And I think that is like, and now I want a sequel where that is a more compelling story than this movie. Everything is crazy and nonsensical. Everyone just dies. Everyone is so nonchalant about how they die and how they're in the woods and all of this stuff. And no one, I just felt like no one had any sense of urgency at all, even when they're in imminent danger. I had a really fun time with the couple in the van. And the man just kept saying, "I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to take care of this." Do you think he's going to take care of it? I think he's going to take care of it because he keeps saying that he's going to take care of it. And one other kind of call out to the, I called him the dad character, but he was just like the brother in the through line. Or not the brother, one of the friends in the through line that just seemed like to have this like dad energy. Just so woodland camping PSA character was so funny to me at the beginning. Meeting everyone at the beginning was great. Then it kind of fell apart when everyone just started dying in a very nonchalant way. Brought it back with the kid with the axe at the end.
Let me just go on record saying I don't think this is a good movie. I think it's an awesome movie because it is, as you said, Fraser, it's kind of violating all of the contracts that a movie makes with its audience, in that there will be characters and there will be a plot. It seems like our filmmakers, they're like, I want to make a slasher. I want to make some money. And they put a lot of energy into those set pieces, but they don't know how to stage those set pieces. They don't know how to execute those set pieces, but they're going to do them, and they're going to do lots of them. It's kind of like this nutso energy to it that they don't know what they're doing, but doggone it, they're going to do it as best they can, even if they aren't really filmmakers.
And in a beautiful landscape too.
Yes.
The woods are beautiful.
It's Utah.
But yes, I understand why people might not like this movie, but I also understand they'll eventually get around to it. Let us skip forward to Eyes of a Stranger, which is not nearly as loopy or fun, kind of darker and weirder, but it is a movie that features Tom Savini, who featured prominently in our first half of these slashers of 81. He's back doing special effects. Freddie, go ahead and kick us off with this one.
Yeah, this one I really enjoyed. I like the whole vibe of this movie. It's funny because I don't feel like it's like a slasher. I feel like it's more like a psychological kind of serial killer thriller kind of movie. But I do like the character. Jennifer Jason Leigh, I think, is great in this movie. As playing as a deaf, dumb, blind, traumatized teenager. I think she's fantastic. I think the whole final act of this movie is amazing. It's probably the best part of the movie. I love the whole like Jane, the newscaster, the lead character. She's kind of trying to investigate. She's very smart. She has agency. She's trying to figure out this kid, what's going on. She realizes her neighbor's the killer, and she's trying to get into the apartment, trying to find clues. There's mud on the car tire. There's mud on his shoes. And I love this whole like cat and mouse thing that's going on throughout the whole movie. It's very much a dark, twisted movie. Another animal that kills a dog, which I don't like either. I think that's terrible. It always happens.
At least they didn't actually kill a dog.
But it always happens. You know, in these movies, it kind of pisses me off.
It was after this movie where I had to keep looking up, does the dog die online? Just anytime I saw a pet, I was like, does it die? I have to know.
I love the whole 80s movie theater scene. I thought that was really cool. Dawn of the Dead. Tom Savini, like you said, did the special effects. Really great nod there. I love that Hughes, they were talking, like, shut up, talk, stop talking, shh. That happens today and people don't care. It's funny. Yeah. Oh, I love that they watched Shockwaves because the director directed Shockwaves in the 70s. Yeah, this is a really underrated, underappreciated movie, I think. I haven't watched this movie like in 20 years. So rewatching this was just a pleasure. I was like, wow, I wish I had watched this movie sooner because this movie is so well made, so well paced. I think it's one of the longer entries we're talking about on this show. It was like 100 minutes, 105 minutes or so. But it's just so well acted, so well directed, so well told. Like it feels very realistic, very like I think true crime nuts will love this movie because it's just very much a very straightforward serial killer, very strong female lead trying to figure out what's going on, realize her sister's in danger. I gotta protect my sister, and her sister's also a fighter. So I think it's such a great, well-made movie that I wish more people would talk about.
I mean, considering Ken Wiederhorn does not necessarily love the horror genre, that's our director. I think he does a really solid job here. Over to you, Fraser.
I agree. I think it's really well done, and there's a lot of good stuff in it for sure. It's not agreed that it's not really a slasher so much. There's clearly like Rear Window aspects to it. I even think that the killer even looks a little bit like Burr in that, just kind of physically very, very similar. The sort of movies that I most connected it with were the ones that would come out maybe about a decade-ish later. It feels very much like a precursor to your like Basic Instinct, Fatal Attraction, like that world of crime where there's also like a sex aspect to it as well, like that, with the killings and that kind of built in there. So yeah, it's a bit of an outlier, I think, in what we have here, but I thought it was really well done. I'd never seen it before. I thought it was really, well made and very effective. Jennifer Jason Leigh is great. Her performance is really fantastic. The one thing that I will say did kind of, the ending is really great, right? The whole ending sequence like that with him in there, and it's a very Hitchcocky type sequence, and is really, really well done. The one thing that I had a tough time with is like Jennifer Jason Leigh's fantastic. She is. It's hard to know exactly when it was shot. I mean, they go see Dawn of the Dead. Being there is up in the movie at the movie theater, which leads me to believe it's like maybe like 79 that they're shooting this. Like the fact that both of those posters are up. But I don't know if Dawn of the Dead's just because it's a Savini thing. But anyway, it's hard to know exactly when it was shot, which means it's hard to know if Jennifer Jason Leigh is 18, but if she is just 18. Definitely topless, and definitely was like, that's an aspect that you have to deal with these movies sometimes, and it is not my favorite. So that kind of was a demerit on the ending for me, but overall, I did think that it was a really well-made, interesting, different kind of take.
Up to you, Lauren.
I thought that this movie was the strongest in terms of character. I really love the characters in this more than kind of like any other entry in this. This is the second movie that I rented from my video store. I had a really great time watching this. It definitely was not as like kooky and fun, but I seriously did love all the characters. The agency of the news anchor, saying things off the cuff on air, the things that she actually felt, and then digging into whether this guy is a murderer or not. The neighbor did also a really good job, like playing maybe a murderer, maybe not a murderer.
Yeah.
There's this line where you're questioning as the audience, like, oh, did he actually do it? Is he actually like cheating on his wife? Because that's the first thing I thought of when you see him change his shirt. There's a movie called Watcher, directed by Chloe Kuno from a few years ago that I watched, and I'm like, oh, this gives Eyes of a Stranger vibes. Just because there's these two opposite buildings, and the woman looking into the other building of this murder and thinking, is he a murderer? Is he just a weird guy? And then they have a cat and mouse kind of chase at the end. My favorite sequence is, towards the end when he just enters the apartment. Jennifer Jason Leigh is kind of, doing her routine, walking around, and there's the tension of, oh, he's moving things. Oh, he's touching her. What's going to happen here? And it's the race against the clock for her sister to come and like kind of save her. I thought it a little weird that at the very end, like trauma heals trauma, so then she can see again. that was kind of lost on me a little bit. I'm like, okay, I guess. And now she can see and talk again. And it's a sweet sentiment at the very end that she says her sister's name, but it kind of is a little goofy. But other than that, I thought this was a great character-driven movie.
Lauren, it's like a cartoon when you get hit on the head and you don't remember, and then you get hit on the head again and you remember everything.
Okay.
It's
Was that
biology.
how it works in real life?
Yep.
Okay, got it. Listen, I failed science. This is why I'm an artist.
Over to you, Art.
A plus, Lauren, for the comparison to Watcher. I love the movie Watcher, and I've always liked this movie, and they do have a lot of parallels that I really hadn't thought about. That's pretty cool. In fact, Watcher's clearly very much inspired by this movie, which was lost on me. I was so engrossed in it. So Amanda Reyes, who was on here with us last year, she has a commentary track on the extras loaded Blu-ray of this movie. She tells a funny story about how she first saw it on TV, and because of a lot of the cast, she thought it was a TV movie. And then when she rented it and it had all this extra stuff, she goes, whoa, this is not a TV movie. I don't know if learning more about it makes it more creepy or less creepy. Jennifer Jason Leigh, this was her first movie. She was 17, and she turned 18 while the movie was being shot. And by all accounts, the nudity was her idea, but the story is pretty creepy. Like, she comes up with this idea, like, oh, because she's been blind, like, she hasn't seen her post-pubescent body. It doesn't get less creepy when you hear the actual story. It depends on your sensibility. If you're creeped out by these things, you might not want to learn more about it. I personally don't give a shit. But in any event, the nudity was her idea. Apparently, she was really fond of like potty humor and dirty jokes. That's what Tom Savini says. She was fascinated with the actor Peter Dupree. He had spent time in New York City's punk scene, which she was getting into at the time. Peter Dupree got along with Savini really well because they were both from Pittsburgh. John DeSanti, our friendly neighborhood serial killer, he had been in King Frat, which was director Ken Wiederhorn's first feature. That's a pretty fun Animal House knockoff if you've never seen it. And of course, we talked about Shockwaves, which characters in this movie are watching on TV. He also went on to direct Meatballs Part 2, Return of the Living Dead Part 2, and A House in the Hills. We talked about, is this a slasher movie or not? Well, I think the fact that Savini did the effects, I think they were kind of going for throwing in slasher elements, right? Like, this is a slasher era movie. So even if maybe originally it wasn't conceived that way, they were trying to slasher it up, so to speak. He actually did the effects on this movie prior to The Burning, but there was a big delay in its release. It was originally cut for an R rating. The gore is now intact. Dean Gates handled some of the effects as well. One of the coolest things you learn from the DVD extras is composer Richard Einhorn. There's an audio interview with him conducted by Michael Felsher, and he also Richard Einhorn did the music to a lot of movies, but notably to me, he did the score to Blood Rage, also known as Nightmare in Shadow Woods. And he talks about seeing an early screening of it with the Coen brothers, because he was working with them. And the Coen brothers, just the idea of the Coen brothers, who I don't care I don't care about them as much as I care about Blood Rage, but the idea that they've seen Blood Rage is kind of cool. But, Eyes of a Stranger, it's far from a forgotten film, but it really doesn't get the fan love it deserves, I don't feel. You can still get it. It's all these movies, it's available on Blu-ray. But even I hadn't seen it in so long. And I watched it with Alana, who had never seen it. And, yeah, it really blew me away. It's a strong movie. Sure, the ending's corny. This is a pretty ridiculous slate of movies. And so in comparison to some of the rest, like, oh, yeah, she can see again. Okay. It's a stupid idea. But it actually plays way less dumb than it should. Like, you watch it and you kind of accept it. Anytime I see a movie with Jennifer Jason Leigh, if you want an earworm that you will not be able to escape, check out the song Jennifer Jason Leigh by the band J Church. Oh my God, this thing will ruin you. It's a very simple, folksy kind of thing with just a couple of lines that you cannot escape once you hear them. Anyway, Eyes of a Stranger was probably the biggest surprise rewatch out of these for me, because I just seen it a couple times previously, but not in a very, very long time. So excellent, good time revisiting this one.
Well, and I got to say, nobody has said it yet, and that may be because, people are of a certain vintage, but seeing Julie, our favorite cruise director from The Love Boat, in a slasher era movie was quite a surprise to me. And I was like, oh, wait, it's Lauren Toos. What the hell is happening right now? Hanging off of balconies and, doing impossible drops onto that's some Jackie Chan shit. I was very, very pleased with that.
Well, that's why Amanda, I think, thought it was a TV movie, right? Like
Right.
You see her and you're watching it on TV, you're like, oh, TV movie.
Over to you, Colleen.
I actually saw this movie back in 2024. Every year, the New Beverly Cinema in Los Angeles has a annual horror show where they show 6 movies that you don't know what they are. They're a surprise to the whole audience. And my letterboxd review for this was, "Can a bitch get a trigger warning?" And I'm not usually big on trigger warnings, but that whole end sequence, I was just like, oh my God, this is just so upsetting in every way possible. I genuinely love this movie. I loved it when it was new to me in 2024. It was exciting to rewatch it. Jennifer Jason Leigh's great. I do think, the trauma cancels the other trauma out is a little silly, but I love anything where somebody is suspicious of a neighbor. I love Body Double, or even Rear Window or something. So it's just kind of fun to have another I know something is up with this guy. And I love the idea of this newscaster being I think I figured this out, but maybe nobody believes me, or maybe I need to be sure myself, or I'm second guessing.
Yep.
And also this movie has one of my favorite things of all time, which is the old Warner Brothers logo.
Colleen, it was really great to also see that her boyfriend was very supportive.
Yeah.
Even though he was really I think you're a little insane for this and going in too deep. He ended up taking the shoe and matching it with the mud.
Yeah.
And figuring this all out
Maybe.
with her.
I liked that too.
He's like, maybe. I love that he didn't completely dismiss her. That was a really great point.
I liked that too. Yeah, it's great.
He did spend a lot of time dismissing her, though. I will just say that.
Yeah, but in the end, he came around, and that's important.
Okay, yeah, exactly. We'll forgive him for actually figuring it out.
I'm a public defender, for those who don't know. I've been one for over 20 years, 24 years to be exact. And yeah, the depiction of criminal defense attorneys in movies always amuses me. They're usually pricks. Not that a lot of us aren't pricks in real life, but we're on the right side of history, goddammit. And I thought his character was a lovably cliched character in that regard, where he was just so dismissive, just this would never hold up in court, that kind of thing.
Well, I got to say, one of the things that I also found really disturbing was the fact that she shoved a bunch of gum into the vending machine when really she could have just gone to the guy and said, "Hey, can you get me a soda?" I was like, you've really created some work for that guy. All right, let us plunge forward into Final Exam, written and directed by Jimmy Huston. I'm not sure how people feel about this one. Let's go ahead and start things off with Art.
Yeah, so until this set of rewatches, if you would have asked me, I would have said that my 2 favorite out of these movies are Bloody Birthday and Final Exam. They're certainly the 2 that I've seen the most times. I've always thought that this is a polarizing title for sure. This movie also had a slow rollout. It first opened on February 27th, 1981, but eventually it played pretty widely. I think it's the ending, the idea that the killer's a nobody. We don't know his motivation. That rubs people the wrong way. That's such a fraction of the movie, though. And, it's clearly an attempt to make an Animal House style campus comedy blended with horror. It doesn't do it as well as, say, Ghoulies Go to College. But it's been a long-time favorite of mine. I like the characters. I like the pacing. I like the kills. For whatever reason, this movie, when it came out, had a soundtrack album and a novelization. I've never read the novelization because I have a life, but I do have the novelization because I only have a life to an extent. No, I have a life, but I do have the novelization too. But in any event,
when you read it, I want to know if there's some backstory to be had.
There is supposedly, but very little. There's a little attempt at a backstory. I thought the reveal at the end was awesome. I remember the first time I saw it, how it made me feel on VHS. I was like, well, that's great, But watching it again this time, there's little nerdy things like when they give the license plate number, it starts with MPM, which is the distributor. And I think this is sort of years before Scream, which people thought was so innovative. I actually like Scream But the idea of like a character that's really into horror movies and kind of like knows what's going on from that angle was I don't want to say ahead of its time, because it's also not the first movie to do that. One of the neat things you learn from the extras on the Blu-ray, DVD and Blu-ray, is that Jamie Lee Curtis was the math tutor of this movie's final girl. They went to the same high school, and so what kind of foreshadowing is that? Like in high school, her math tutor was Jamie Lee Curtis, and then they both end up being final girls. But yeah, Final Exam looks good. It plays well. It's a so-called popcorn movie. It's just like a lot of fun, well made, and no deep anything in it. The school shooting thing definitely would not be done in a movie today. I wouldn't think. That was somewhat surprising from a more contemporary standpoint. But yeah, no, I've always enjoyed this movie compared to the other ones. Now, am I going to rank Final Exam above something like Eyes of a Stranger? Of course not. Like, you'd be a pretty odd viewer to do that. But this is one of the two that I'd seen the most times prior to this.
So this was new to me, and I'm kind of mid on it. Like, it was fine. Would I watch it again? Maybe. But, like, I didn't love it or anything. I do love, it's always creepy to me when there's, like, a killer that's kind of just killing. And you don't really get, like, a elaborate, like, oh, his mother was murdered, or, like, oh, he was bullied, or, like, anything. It's just, like, this guy just wants to kill people, and we're not going to get too much information about it. To me, I think that's kind of fun in a way. The school shooting thing is of course, like, I feel like that's something everyone's going to bring up. Not great was my note on that. But it's of its time, I guess.
He got his 82 on his exam.
Yeah. If you got to do anything for that B. But I wrote that the killer looks like Coop from Wet on American Summer, like in the first kill. I thought that was, like, with his hair and stuff, I thought that was kind of funny. I know that a lot of people have made note of how kind of homoerotic this movie is, which I think anything like frat oriented tends to be, as I think most frats just kind of end up a little gay, for lack of a better word. Not judging. I'm very pro that, but I think that's pretty funny. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I do love a good Ghoulies Go to College reference, so thank you, Art, for that. But yeah, like, this is sort of like right in the middle for me. I didn't hate this movie at all. I didn't love it the way I love other things. I would probably watch it again, but it was, it's kind of just like, whatever. Sure, is my ultimate idea for this. Sure.
This was so hard for me to find. I couldn't go on a streaming service and watch this. I watched a video file sent to me, and I was like, oh, why is this so hard to find? And then we get to the school shooting, and I'm like, oh, maybe this is why. Honestly, had not heard of this movie before. Now, incredibly turned off by the school shooting, and then the subsequent nonchalance that all the students kind of felt. There's a scene where one of the girls is like, did you hear what was going on? What is happening? And the kids are like, oh, yeah, we heard what's happening. It's fine. Did you not see the bumper sticker on the back of the van? And then she's like, oh, okay. Like, I know, I am very aware that this is, my sensibility, and, it is 2026, but I can't look at this movie with the lens of 1981. That being said, I do love the idea of, like, a motiveless killer just kind of like going rampant, and that trope of, a masked killer just being absolutely just taken from you from minute one. I wrote a note called White Boy Problems. That is a big thing that happens at the beginning of the movie, where you're just hearing about white boy problems, not being able to be paid your car's down payment if you don't get a B on this paper.
White boy problems make you a serial killer, though.
That's right.
Yeah, but that's a motive. This is a motiveless killer.
Good point.
And I do have a favorite character, and it is Radish. And
yes.
He's just a good time.
My note was Radish deserved a better movie than this. I also like the fact that it's kind of flying in the face of giving us a backstory to the killer, giving him a reason, giving him an identity. I really like that. There's just a whole lot of frat stuff that goes on for the first hour before we actually get around to the slashing in our slasher. My biggest turnoff to it was just get on with it. You've given me the characters that I hate, and I'm ready to see them start getting killed, but it takes a while for that to start happening.
Yeah, for me, this is like a middle of the road slasher for me. I agree. The pacing is just not great on this movie. I feel like everything happens in the last 30 minutes, which is fine. But I don't mind characters being developed. I think that's great. You get to know the heroes and the villains, and you just kids you want to see live and kids you want to see die. I just think it takes too long to get there. The school shooting thing does take some of the sting away from the rest of the movie. It's treated as a joke, which I think is a problem. Even though there is a purpose to that scene, right, which I'm fine with, but at the same time, it's just like, even in 1981, I would think that would be a very serious issue, and apparently it's not, and it's just like very like upsetting in a way. Like, why are they treating it as a joke just for a grade? Like, it's just ridiculous. I will say, yeah, Radish is the best character in the movie. Definitely, Kevin Williamson definitely loved this movie because he took Radish to make Randy and Scream. And then there's a scene in the movie where the frat guy gives his girlfriend the pin, which was taken for Scream 2, where Jerry O'Connell's character gives Nev Campbell the pin, and they do the frat thing where they kind of hang him and they tie him with rope and they do a prank on him, and he ends up dying because of that, because he's trapped and he can't do anything. So it's obvious that he took that inspiration from this movie for Scream. The killer, I love that he doesn't have a motive. I just don't feel intimidated by the killer. I just think he looks just like someone's dad. Someone who just drinks at a bar and just, got drunk and just like, hey, I'm just going to kill somebody. What the hell not? Bow cut, dumpy looking, does nothing for me. Like, you could say Michael Myers is very blank, but the face, the mask, the way he moves, it says a lot about him. This guy just like, I'm just walking around from campus to campus killing people, which is fine. I'm just not scared about this guy. And I think like some of the characters that we do like don't really get the satisfying ending that they should have gotten. Like Radish gets taken out, way worse than he should, way earlier than he should, to be honest. And
kind of with no fanfare,
right? And I feel like he deserved more than what he got. I think the girl Lisa, who was like the slutty character, also the art student, deserved better. She's not hardly in the movie to begin with. I didn't even think the frat guy, the guy who's pledging, deserved better. I think he was a very interesting character. I love the final girl, though. I think she's one of the best final girls that we've talked about for this year, who doesn't really get much mention, but she deserves to get mentioned. She does a good job.
I agree with all of that. 55 minutes, I checked, is how long it takes for not the first kill, because there's the opening scene, but the first kill after the opening. 55 minutes, that's a long time. Yep. It does seem like the most kind of like, just like we're doing a slasher, right? It's pretty like on the nose of what a slasher is, but just the pacing issue. I'll give three really quick things I liked. One, it's got a great, at times, a really good, cool, like sort of Phantasm-esque score that I really like. There's some good music in it. My favorite shot of the whole thing is I love the scene in the basketball court where the guy comes on and then it's like completely dark and just the scoreboard comes on. I think that's a really effective, good shot right there. I love the sequence. I forget who it is, but somebody is running from the killer and they go through like 12 doors and 16 hallways and down the stairs, and they're going through here and they go through this hallway and the killer pops out of a barrel. And you're like, oh, that is amazing that killer was like, you know what? I'm going to go hide in that barrel because they're going to run by that barrel and I'm going to get them. I thought that was amazing.
Well, I just realized we have a run of 3 education-themed movies. Next one being Graduation Day and Fraser. I'll let you just dive right into that.
Okay, so I will try to be brief here. Graduation Day is legitimately one of my favorite movies of all time. I love it so much. It's so good. It kicks off with this incredible opening with this awesome song that just completely sets the pace. The score the music in that first opening credits thing is incredible. I love it's got this. It also sets the pace right off the bat with this really interesting editing style that it'll use throughout, of this like cut kind of thing that it will continue to use throughout the movie. It's chock full of great characters. Like there's just a ton of really interesting people in it. And they do a really great job of making like a lot of red herrings. Like you think that maybe it's the security guy, maybe it's the principal, maybe it's the coach. Like it does a really great job of delivering all of those. Put all of these things together, it's incredibly fun. I feel like you can kind of lean into the more kind of mean side or the more fun side. And this one just leans into the fun. And the last thing I'll say about it, the thing that epitomizes fun, back when we did our 1980 panel, I talked about how one of my favorite, maybe my favorite moment in all of those movies that we watched was the point where Jamie Lee Curtis busts out and dances at the end of Prom Night and the music starts. And I love a good music sequence in the middle of a movie. There is none better than 7 pure minutes of Felony playing gangster rock while Linnea Quigley gets murdered. I was like, the first time I saw this, I had to like stop at the end of it and be like, I paused the movie when that sequence came to an end and was like, oh my God. And like got up and like walked around for a minute. It's so good. It's so incredible. She's amazing in it. I love the song. I love the guy doing the dance, which is so good. I'm sure people have noticed this. I'm sure I'm not going to blow your minds with this, but I love that there are a couple of sequences where, for whatever reason, they did not choose a shot to include where the band is playing. There's definitely a couple moments where the band is just sitting there, but the music is playing. And you're like, maybe we could have edited that a little bit better at some point. I'm sure you have enough footage of the band playing. We probably shouldn't have included that shot, but so be it. I love that sequence so much. It is just my absolute favorite.
This was the first movie I watched in this list of 10, and it just set such a high precedent for the dance sequences of other movies or the music sequences in other movies. And I was sorely disappointed in all of them because they were not this roller rink montage of killing, but then all these kids dancing at the roller rink. It was such a cool scene. Yeah, the characters are amazing. I did love that our protagonist that we follow is from in the Navy. I think she's really cool. This was such a hyper-specific killer and a hyper-specific situation. I don't think anyone has ever cared about a track team more than in this movie, and that was very funny. I wrote down the gymnastics routine scene walk so that Final Destination could run. And I think my second favorite character is the music teacher. Everyone is sufficiently very horny in this movie, and the music teacher is doubly so. I thought that was very, very fun. There's a great fake out of framing the coach for the murders when it's actually the boyfriend. Yeah, and then I said, okay, there we go, kick his ass. And that's how I thought about the ending. I really enjoyed this movie. It set a great precedent for the rest of the viewings that I had for this.
I like that Christopher George is not only the track and field coach, he's the gymnastics coach. I was like, wow, that is a broad spectrum of athletic.
Yeah, the general physical education coach.
I do it all.
And he's the shop teacher too.
Which will figure in with our last film.
Yeah, I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with this movie. I'm not as big of a fan as the two of you are. I respect it though. I will say this. I do think there are very memorable moments in this movie, which are really great. Like the musical number is maybe a bit too long. 7 minutes is a long time, but
no, never.
But
twice as long. Twice as long.
But I will say that I think where it's because with Linnea's chase scene and murder, I think is great. I think that whole last half of that is really well done because the music kind of builds into that whole murder thing. So I kind of dig that. I love the football lance. I think that's one of the most memorable slasher weapons of all time.
Yeah.
The acting, Christopher George is hamming it up, and he's great as always in everything he does. Michael Pataki shows up here. I was like, oh, I forgot he was in this movie.
He thinks it's in a different movie, though. I gotta say.
Vanna White's an interesting. That's her first major role. I think it's like, and she's actually not that bad. She's actually pretty charismatic. She's kind of into it, you know. Yeah, I don't love the 3 endings though. I think it just keeps trying to end, then another ending, and then another ending. I'm just like, this movie should have ended like 10 minutes ago. We don't really need this. I do love the killer's motivation though. I think the killer is the boyfriend who kind of wants revenge on the coach because the girlfriend died from a heart attack or whatever she had. I think it's great. He has the corpse in the room, which is just like bizarre. Yeah, I love the characters. I think, like you said, they're great. They're not interchangeable at all. You know who these characters are. They all have different personalities. I think that's really well done. And yeah, very sexual movie. The moment the lead actress shows up, the guy in the truck, he's pretty much just like trying to assault her. And he's like, you're not one of those
lesbos. He's a taxpayer, so he can do that.
Right. He's like, you're not one of those lesbos, are you? And I'm just like, okay, like we're good with it going. And the musical teacher trying to have sex with all these girls. I'm like, this guy's gay, right? Like this guy's not really into these women because he was kind of flamboyant. So it's kind of like what's the deal here? But yeah, it's just a interesting, weird movie. But I kind of understand why people love it more than I do. But for me, I wouldn't watch this like whole lot. But when I watch it, I'm just smiling at it, going, "This is really stupid." But I can kind of get why it's such a cult hit.
I really liked this movie. I hadn't seen it before. I do want to say that as somebody with a Chris Isaac tattoo, Graduation Day is my favorite song by him, so I kept singing it. Loved the music in this. I wrote down that the opening song was just amazing. Loved that the killer, like, it's kind of obvious, and also, like, his motivation makes sense to me. It's not like, he's not like, I'm evil and I want to kill everybody. He's like, my girlfriend was pushed to her limits and died, and now I'm crazy. And I like, yeah, I was like, I kind of get it. I thought that the body in his room was really hokey looking, but I absolutely loved Anne, the protagonist here. I loved her. I loved her from the minute she was in that car and she was like, touch me again, you're gonna pull back a stump or whatever it is. I love how the stepfather, she was like, I don't fucking think so. Like, I loved her in this. I thought she was like a fantastic, I don't really want to call her a final girl. I don't really think she kind of falls in, I guess she is one, but I think she's just great. Like everything about her I loved. And you know, she's just like, I'm in the army, and well, not the army, the Navy, and I've learned a few things, and you are not going to pull one over on me. And it's in a genre where there are so many helpless or just kind of dipshitted women doing dumb stuff, or you know, like are victims because of their gender. I just loved this sort of like, nope, just gonna avenge my sister and figure out what's going on here, and no one is going to bring me down. And I loved it. I thought it was great. I also thought it was kind of interesting. Social commentary regarding school sports and how hard they push you. But I also took a lot of umbrage, I guess, with the woman shaving her legs in the sink. Do not do that. That's gross.
Okay. Yes.
I thought that was crazy. But that's all I have to say. I genuinely loved this movie. It was high up there for me out of the 10.
Yeah, out of the 10 rewatches, this was the one that I really enjoyed a lot more than I had back in the day. I think when I was a kid, my just extreme hatred of sports, and I saw that opening sequence, I was like, I just didn't think it would be a movie that I'd be able to connect with. But it's a whole lot of fun. This one had a slow build. It didn't really have a national release. It first opened in LA around graduation time, May 8th of 81. But they did end up with around 200 prints, and one of the producers had a hand in distributing Halloween, and really got this out there. You know, time's been very, very kind to this movie, I think. It has so many lovable elements, from the pre-pieces, Christopher George, to Vanna White, like we talked about. It's a relatively early Linnea Quigley role. It's not as crazy early as like Psycho from Texas, if you've seen her in that. But I think we only talked about the one musical number. There's also, you know, the other one with Grant Lord of An American Family playing folk guitar and cast members singing along. I love a musical number in a non-musical. I think it's like one of my favorite things in cinema. That band, the new wave band Felony, is interesting to watch. The movie has bizarre editing, and I like the twist ending. Yeah. And the fact that it's directed by a former rabbi or rabbinical student, depending on the source. I've heard both, that he was an actual rabbi or a rabbinical student. That is beyond amusing, because why wouldn't it be directed by a rabbi? Just so much more fun than I remembered it. Really a good one.
That was my experience too, Art. When Fraser was championing it, I was like, really? Graduation Day? But then going back to it, I'd forgotten how much fun the editing is. The big misdirect with Christopher George. I'm so glad I came back to Graduation Day. So thank you so much, Fraser, for pushing it hard. Let us scoot forward to Night School, directed by Ken Hughes and set in Boston, where I believe you are at this moment, Colleen. Why don't we start things off with you?
I am. And I'm so excited to watch this because I watched it yesterday and I was like, Boston. I've never seen this movie. I genuinely loved it, not just because it was set in Boston. I was kind of hoping that you would pick me to talk about it first. And, I love that it was filmed here. I love how they were so heavy-handed in being like, this is Boston. They were like, she's a student in Beacon Hill. Her head was found in the duck pond. And I was just like, oh, we're going to go to a Celtics game. Like, they don't say that, but I genuinely loved it. I love, as a huge fan of Nightmare Beach, I love a killer with a motorcycle helmet. I know way back at the beginning of recording, we started talking about how there's like a fine line between slasher and giallo. And I'm a big giallo person. And even my husband was like, we could put this on our giallo like watch list for January. And I was like, yeah, it's got those giallo vibes. I love the Boston accents. I love the fake outs like in the diner where it's like clearly there's the decapitation thing happening here. And they're like, oh, is it in the stew? No. Oh, is it in this bag of cantaloupes? No. And then it's like in the sink and he's like rooting around. I'm like, he would definitely feel the head in there. I loved that. I loved the different, like the head in the toilet. Like, I thought it was very fun. I thought it was a really cool twist with the killer being the girl, and then and then the guy being like, I'm gonna pretend to be the killer so you can get away. Like, I just liked all of it. Everything about this movie was fun to me. And it's not just because of my love for Boston. I was born and raised in Massachusetts, and only in the last 10 years left to live in Los Angeles. But it was just so fun for me to be like, I'm gonna settle down to watch this, and I was like, Boston police. I am locked and loaded. I'm ready to go. I loved everything about this movie. I thought it was very, very fun.
Yeah, I haven't watched this movie in like 25 years, so I didn't remember much of anything besides the motorcycle killer. I loved this movie. I thought this movie was great. I feel like this is another one that's like more giallo than a slasher, but it has both elements, so it works well together. Rachel Ward is great in this movie. I think she's just so strong. My issue with this movie is that it's obvious who the killer is, or like the second murderer. Who else will have a motive in this movie to kill? The professor is such a creep that you kind of go, well, why aren't you killing him instead of the women he's flirting with or sleeping with? But, we're living a Jerry Springer, kind of world where people are just, I'm going to blame the person I'm having an affair with rather than the person I'm actually with. Yeah, I love the scene when you're talking about with the soup, with the head, and the sink. I think that's the best scene in the movie. So much tension. It's just like you the build-up with that. He's pouring the pot so slow, and you wait for something to pop up, and nothing pops up. It's so great. I love the cops in this movie. Probably one of the few slasher films where I actually enjoy the police officers. They have such great banter together. I think the ending with the prank actually works. I think I know a lot of people bitch about it, but I kind of like it. I also feel like this professor guy, he's trying to take the place of his girlfriend because doesn't want to hurt her or the baby that she's carrying. I guess it's kind of his redemption arc, but you can't redeem that guy. That guy's just a creep. And also, I love that there is the dean of the college that actually is also a creep who sleeps with another student, where she's kind of reprimanding the professor, but she's doing the same thing that he's doing. So I kind of like that. 81 with a lesbian in 1981 is pretty brave, which I actually liked. But yeah, I dig this movie. I love that the killer is the decapitator, headhunter. I kind of like that whole vibe about the tribes and how they used to do it. This movie is very smart for what it is, and I kind of wish that more people would talk about it too. I kind of think this is one of the stronger slasher films of 1981, and it still holds up. I enjoyed this one a lot.
Yeah, I had a pretty good time with this. My favorite part was the fact that this was, like the semi-giallo slasher, but also a buddy cop movie. I definitely got that vibe between the detective and the cop. Again, really loved all the fake outs here. I loved all the sweaters being worn in this movie. I love the aquarium set. That is a pretty beautiful thing to me. I love the equal opportunity creeps. Anyone can be a creep in this movie, men and women. I had a really good time, especially guessing who might have been the killer. I wrote this down. Colleen will get this. Knife carousel walk so shotgun carousel could run. I cannot go more than an hour without a Saw reference. I am sorry. Yeah, everyone was weirdly horny. A scene that stuck out with me was the fake out in the shower when you thought that the assistant was gonna die, but it's just the professor sneaking up, and now they're having weird intimacy body painting in the shower.
Can we talk about that scene? Because I was just so weirded out by that paint.
Yeah, no, that was incredibly weird. All of it was incredibly weird and not as hot as I think everyone wanted it to be.
Like, I don't kink shame anybody. I might have my own kinks, but that was just weird for me. Like, what was the point?
I just feel like you're wasting all this makeup. It's like you're putting it on and it's immediately getting washed off.
It's obviously a Psycho reference, but it's just like, weird.
It was weird.
Yeah, it was weird. I think that's where I'm going to leave it. It was weird.
I agree with most of what people said here. I liked it. It was a little more in the middle for me. I definitely liked it. I thought it was really well done. One of the things that I noted is, going back to the Giallo versus slasher theme, not a lot of people die, as opposed to like Graduation Day, not a lot of people die by just like all of a sudden getting killed. Like they're long sequences, and the women are like terrified and are like, they're not fun kills for the most part. They are like, because of the response of the women, there is a lot of like real fear and real like slow drawn out, which I think tends to lean a little more on the Giallo side than the slasher side. I think maybe because of that and because of some other aspects, I felt like there was a real strong theme to this movie about how men make women feel unsafe. That seems like a real, very prevalent theme here, which I think is pretty progressive for 1981. And I thought that it was, nice that was represented here. So those were my takeaways. I thought it was good. I thought it was interesting. It didn't resonate with me quite as much as the others, but I thought it was good. And yeah, the soup bit is amazing. It takes so long.
A+ Nightmare Beach reference, Colleen, definitely a great flick. Never forget September 11th of 1981. That's when Night School came out. Vinegar Syndrome just said that they're releasing it as a special edition this month. That announcement just came out the other day. It's been in circulation forever. It's nice to see it coming back. I have this old videotape from back in the day of it, and I always thought this artwork was diminished by the key video, like presentation of the artwork, but it's still a cool tape. This is another movie that I think time has been really kind to. It was originally called Terrorize, which I think Night School is maybe, you can't really even tell what kind of movie it is. Terrorize is an interesting, probably better title. It was released under that name in some countries. It's one of the few slasher movies of its time that was written by and co-produced by a woman. Adam Rockoff, who couldn't be here today, he interviewed her for his book, and she said, there's nothing special about her being female, and she doesn't think that any kind of difference, and she really was very dismissive about talking about it in that framework. But it's cool that he tracked her down and interviewed her. It's one of the only interviews I could find with her.
Ruth Abergon, yeah.
Right, and it's from the director of Night School, is from the director of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I think he was like, finally, I can make a movie the whole family can enjoy. I'll make Night School. Yeah, it is a fun one. I enjoyed the hell out of it this time. You think you have this one sleazy professor, and it's like, oh wait, she's the same way. And I guess that's why people go into higher education, to take advantage of their students. Really, kind of a bleak educational environment these people are in. But yeah, great flick, and I'm looking forward to revisiting it soon, yet again, on Vinegar Syndrome's upcoming reissue.
I'd completely forgotten that Brad Fidel does the score, who we recently, we talked about with Just Before Dawn, and he would go on to do The Terminator and a bunch of other great scores. And our DP is Mark Irwin, who was Cronenberg's go-to guy from Fast Company all the way up to The Fly. Then he worked with Wes Craven with New Nightmare and Scream. And he was the DP for Starship Invasions, which was the movie that Ed Hunt, who directed Bloody Birthday, directed before he did Bloody Birthday. So I was like, what is happening right now? Let us move forward into one of our stranger films, Strange Behavior, aka Dead Kids, written by Bill Condon, future Oscar winner, directed by Michael Laughlin, starring an all-star cast of Michael Murphy, Louise Fletcher, Dan Shore, Fiona Lewis. I was like, what are all these people doing in this little movie? I think is it New Zealand or Australia?
New Zealand.
But they make it look like this lovely Midwestern town. So I have a lot of love for this movie. It is very strange in terms of being a slasher. It's a completely unique element in that regard. And I think it's kind of, as you said, Art gets lumped into the slashers because it is slasher adjacent, but there is some actual murders being committed. So
this was my first time seeing this, and I really loved it. I thought this was fantastic. Behind, obviously, Graduation Day, this was my favorite of the lot. Maybe because it also has a fantastic dance sequence. We'll just toss that in there. Second best dance sequence in the lot here. A really great thing. I love the moment where it's like, did you guys learn this dance? Did everybody we're going full choreography here? Did like everybody come prepared for this moment? And I love that like multiple people in that scene are never ever seen again. Like you assume that these are going to be important characters. They're not. They're just at the party, and we'll never cross their paths again. But I thought it was a really kind of like funky, weird movie in that it took all these like disparate elements, which were really great. Like there's a real like Cronenberg and like Firestarter aspect of like the experiments. I feel like the end had a little bit of like Halloween 3's kind of quality to it. It just was, and there's the slasher pieces. It just took these different elements and put it into a really unique, fun kind of vibe. And the thing I'll say, my kind of favorite aspect of it is the ending, which has this kind of weird, it's kind of this like odd, piece there with this like wedding at the church. But as I was watching it, I was like, we don't learn the identities of all the killers, right? Because it's different people. And there's some of them that we never get clarity on exactly who it was. We know the overall plot, and so that's fine. But there's that great shot in the wedding at the end where it shows the friend who we know is one of the killers, right? He wore the creepy mask. But he never got caught, so he's just there. And I feel like there's this great aspect to that ending of like, okay, well, he killed somebody and he didn't get caught. So like, are there other people in this congregation who also killed people and didn't get caught? We don't know. We have no idea. I don't know. That aspect of it really stuck with me and really made me think about the ending a lot.
So I didn't care for this movie much, and I think maybe I had slasher fatigue by this point. And I was just like, okay, Mind Control, like Louise Fletcher. I love Tangerine Dream. They did the soundtrack, so that was fun for me. I thought the kills were really cool. I loved that, but in the shower, like the mom's like, "What's taking you so long?" And he's like, ah. Like that's fun. But it's a movie that I think I want to revisit like further down the line. This is the sort of like one of the last ones I watched, and I was like, because I wasn't enjoying it as much as the other ones. And I think that's definitely on me. It was kind of cool to have like something a little different instead of just like the mind control thing was a little more interesting. And I think that it was supposed to be like part of a trilogy. And then like that kind of fell apart. And I thought that was kind of interesting. The cast was cool. But for the most part, it's a movie that I really want to watch when I can maybe devote. I found myself sort of drifting a lot in it, and I want to devote a little more time to it. It's funny because I was like, I find this kind of a little boring. So when other people are like, it's exciting, I was like, is it? Is this me? It might be me.
I want to just run down the credits of writer, director Bill Condon. I'm going to start with Gods and Monsters, which he won an Academy Award for, and then Chicago, Dreamgirls, Greatest Showman, Kiss of the Spider Woman, and my two favorites, Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1 and 2. I just think that's a wild filmography to have after Strange Behavior. This guy's a musicals guy, but he started here, and this was a very wild movie. Incredibly wildly sponsored by Coca-Cola. I'm with Colleen here, and I want to spend more time with this because I fell asleep in the middle of it and woke up at the end, and it felt like a fever dream. So I had to like very fast rewatch it. Just knowing the backstory of what the Bill Condon was going to write and direct after this is very, very wild.
Yeah, I like this movie a lot. I watched this for the first time probably a little over 10 years ago. Liked it then, still like it now. The slasher thing, though, for me, it doesn't really feel like a slasher to me. It feels more like a homage to a B movie from the 50s, where like these kids are like dancing to 50s music. The way the film looks is very like 50s, 60s kind of like old school kind of filmmaking. It's funny watching Jimmy Olsen from the Superman movies kill people. And I also think the kids are kind of old for high school, especially the main guy. He's 17, but he looks like he's 30. I mean, he has a bald spot too. I'm kind of like, what's going on here? But Michael Murphy's great in this, and Louise Fletcher. I think she has that monologue in the final act, where she talks about why Michael Murphy's character is after this scientist guy who's doing all the experiments. I think her monologue is great. I love the review at the end. I love the female assistant scientist. She's so evil, is great. It's a film I like. I don't think it's a memorable film though. I feel like it's a very sleepy, slow movie. And I feel like, I think most people watch it will probably make it better for those who don't enjoy it right now. But yeah, I do like this movie. But I don't consider it a slasher, to be honest with you.
I think Strange Behavior is awesome. It came out for Halloween season 1981, October 16th to be exact. I think it's a unique movie in that you have New Zealand masquerading as Galesburg, Illinois. I see what Freddie's saying. While it is a mad scientist's tale, first and foremost, it's trying to bring that type of story into the slasher film era. You have the Tor Johnson mask from the Ed Wood movies, and just those sequences alone, it's sort of like, this is what's going on in cinema right now, right? So is it a straightforward slasher movie like Final Exam? No, but it's a slasher film, a slasher era film with enough slasher elements, I guess, to warrant inclusion in a conversation like this. We can't say enough about that musical dance number. I mean, everybody's dressed like a TV character, and like, if you are like me, a fan of dance and musical numbers in non-musicals, it doesn't get better than that. I mean, in fact, when I think about this movie, that's the first thing I remember. Of course, it's phenomenal that co-writer Bill Condon went on to write the screen version of Chicago and direct Dreamgirls. I mean, that's just awesome. Dae Young from Rock and Roll High School. I've been fortunate to get to meet a lot of my heroes and to get to, besides interviews for DVDs, Blu-rays, and the magazine, to also get to host a lot of convention Q&As. And I had met PJ Souls. You did a lot more conventions than Dae Young because of Carrie and Halloween. But when they started doing Rock and Roll High School reunions, I got to host a reunion at Wasteland or co-host at Wasteland and at Chiller. The first time I met Dae Young, I wasn't even prepared. I had been doing it for a while. And like, after I went up and met her and she was so friendly, when I walked away, it just was like one of those super emotional moments for me. Like, I started tearing up. I just didn't expect it to have that level of impact on me. That's how much I love Dae Young from childhood. I mean, Rock and Roll High School just means the world to me. I got to host those panels in April of 2012 at Wasteland, and then April of 2014 at Chiller. That one also included Mary Warrenoff, which is another person who I was dying to meet. And then PJ Souls and Dae Young came back to Wasteland in April of 2018. This was just her second movie, so she looks a lot like she does in Rock and Roll High School, and it's hard to separate this from my love of that movie. This movie does have some pacing issues. I know what Freddie's talking about. To give a prime example, when it really slows down, is you have this scene with blood squirting out of someone's dick, and then it's like moves right into this boring exhuming of a corpse scene that is just one of the worst scenes of the movie. It's really badly paced. It's almost like they thought that in post. They were like, well, we have this great scene. People will excuse this boring ass scene. Like, just cut the boring ass scene, it really loses steam then, because you go from this like wild image you're never going to forget to like these two people messing with this grave, and you're like, oh my god. So that's when the movie really drags to me. The pronunciation of the title is funny to me because I always pronounced it Dead Kids, and like it's kind of like the band Green Day. Like, before they broke, my friends and I would call them Green Day. Like, a couple of the people on the extras of this movie pronounce it Dead Kids, which has a totally different vibe than Dead Kids. But before I could even get to the punchline, I'm explaining this to Alana, and I'm like, yeah, I always pronounced it Dead Kids. She's like, how's it supposed to be pronounced? She got me there. But supposedly Disturbing Behavior is an unofficial remake of it. I saw Disturbing Behavior when it came out. I wanted to rewatch it in conjunction with this. I didn't get around to it. They did make the follow-up Strange Invaders, and there was supposed to be a third Strange movie in the trilogy. But I love this videotape of it as Dead Kids on the Canadian video label Let Us Entertain You, Lettuce, like the vegetable, Let Us Entertain You. I read some sources online say that the Let Us Entertain You videotapes were really low quality in the EP mode, but this one is not. At least I'm not doubting that they also released it that way, but this one isn't that way. But in any event, I've long been a fan of this movie, and but I'll concede that it has some pacing issues, certainly.
And if we swing around to our final lap, we get Student Bodies, which is basically, we talked about the codifying of the slasher subgenre. This one is one that recognized that, yeah, there's a lot of these tropes and we can point them up in a scary movie fashion. I had not seen this in probably 30 years, but I was amazed at how much of it had imprinted on me, because I was like, yep, I remember that joke, that joke, that joke, that joke. Curious to hear how it landed for folks. Freddie, let's kick things off with you.
Yeah, I'm the same way as you. This is like an inside joke movie with my cousin, because my cousin actually owns the VHS of this, and that's the first time I ever watched it. So a lot of the inside jokes, like the eggplant, the horse head bookend, the garbage bag scene, which we always talk about. It's one of those spoof movies that there's so much stuff in it that is so memorable, but I feel like as a whole, it kind of loses its way by the second half. It just kind of just dies out. It's like, okay, we can kind of wrap this up a little bit. And my overview Brad, that's that guy. He has the blow up doll in the thing. I think it's so great. The breather to me is the best character in the movie. I'm gonna kill the kid with the gum. Like, why am I wearing galoshes? Like it's so funny. Yeah, I kind of think it's of its time. I think Scary Movie kind of does the spoof better, to be honest with you. The first Scary Movie, at least. But yeah, this is still a fun movie. I don't think it holds up that well, to be honest. But I think if you grew up with it and you remember all that the scenes, all that stuff, it's still a good movie to watch, and it's still fun. And yeah, I like the horse head guy is great. The click with the chicken, I think that's freaking amazing. I love that. They just hang up with me, no, I just said click. Oh, okay, bye. Yeah, me and my cousin always do that all the time. Like, did you just hang up with me? I said click. So we always do that. So yeah, it's just a very fun movie.
Yeah, this is the we saved the worst for last. I like Freddie. I saw this movie on cable as a kid. I didn't really like it then, and I don't really like it now. I probably enjoyed it more now than I did previously, but man, like, I don't understand exactly what it is, because this should be a movie for me. I mean, to this day, I think the Kentucky Fried Movie is probably the funniest movie ever made. Like, if you ask me that question, and I rewatch it every few years just to make sure it's still as fucking funny as I remember. I love horror comedies, and like, but do I is the question, because like some of my favorite movies of all time are, being getting really heavy into this stuff in the 80s. Street Trash, The Toxic Avenger, Reanimator, Basket Case, Psychos in Love. These are some of my all-time favorite movies. But lately, like, some of the recent horror comedies, I'm sure the filmmakers are fine, nice people, but like, man, like, I watched Psycho Gorman, and people love that movie, and I'm like what? Like, I call it Psycho Borman. I thought that movie was terrible. Hobo with a Shotgun, from the same filmmakers, terrible. People adore these movies. I think horror movies and comedies, they can go very well together. Sometimes I really connect with a new horror comedy. I love Dead Hooker in a Trunk. I thought it was brilliant. For some reason, it's almost like this movie came out in August 7th of 81, a big release, like, the first horror comedy, like, which it wasn't. But I have fought the urge to like this, I feel like. And so this time I'm like, I'm going to like it. Like, it can't be as bad as I remember. It's an Airplane-styled spoof of slashers. Like, what's not to like? And I did enjoy it, but like more than I have, but it's so uneven. Like, when it's on, it's on. Like, it has a few really big laughs. The first time he steps in the gum, that's funny, but when it devolves into plot points and it tries to tell a story, and it just, it's such a drag, It's shot in Texas, and with a few exceptions, it's the only film appearance for most of the cast. So that's an interesting element, just the regional filmmaking, that parade scene, the gears start turning. My favorite character is a supporting one known simply as Punker, who has some great shots and a couple of one-liners. But yeah, the U.S. Blu-ray that is out now from Olive is bare bones. There's beefed up versions available from 88 Films and Wicked Vision in Europe. But Terror Vision has a fancy new stateside edition shipping like this week, supposedly.
Yep.
But I think you'd have to be a pretty big fan to shell out $45 for a new edition of this movie. But hey, I mean, more power to fans of this movie. Who am I to judge. But I mean, I just think this movie is like Saturday the 14th. It just falls flat. Like it has its moments, and like it should be a movie for me. But I didn't connect with it. Like if a movie's dumb when you're 11 years old, it might just be dumb. You know, like if you think it's dumb when you're 10 or 11, you might be onto something.
Lauren.
I'm coming on the other side of this from Art, and I really enjoyed this movie. This is a proto scary movie in the style of Airplane. I had a really good time. I think the only thing that like really just became so like annoying and belabored for this was just the breather, just the name or the sound that became like, all right, this gimmick is getting old now. I don't want to hear this throughout the entire movie. It all started with the meowing dog for me and the text on the screen. I am a big proponent of text on the screen, and then it cutting, fourth wall cutting to talking to the MPAA about how to rate this movie in the middle of it. I don't know this. I'm easy. I'm an easy catch when it comes to breaking the fourth wall and just recognizing tropes when they happen. Justice for Malvert always, and I can't believe this movie ended with that it was a freaking dream based on coming on from swine flu. That was a twist for me that I was not expecting in a send up of tropes. It was really funny for me. This is a great movie to end the discussion on.
Student Bodies. That was a silly little movie. I do like a spoof, and I do like the first Scary Movie a lot, and the spoofs are just fun in general. It does get a little fatiguing quickly, and it's kind of like a proto Scary Movie in that it's maybe more competent than what Scary Movie ends up becoming as it goes on in the series. And I did love the Gene Siskel review because I was looking up like information about it, where it says it exposes all its comic tricks in the first reel, suggesting that the genre itself is not all that deep and there may be less to parody than one thinks, which I don't necessarily agree with, but maybe at the time they were just trying to push one out quickly during like the height of slasher mania or whatever. Like I thought it was fun, but after a while, like, you know, this might be my last babysitting gig ever because I'm gonna get killed. Like I thought it was kind of funny. Comic relief aside, it was not my favorite of the 10.
And Fraser.
Sorry, Team Art on this one.
That's okay. I'm batting cleanup, so we're okay.
Yeah, we'll see. I love Airplane. I love a lot of these. Airplane came out in 1980, so this is capitalizing on both the slasher stuff and the Airplane stuff, right? With these kinds of movies, when it's just the like Zucker style, like bam, 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 throwing jokes at the wall, they're not all going to stick, and that's part of the joy of it. Right? It's fine. Like not every joke has to land, but like enough of them have to land. And for me, very, very few of them landed. The two that really stuck out for me have already been mentioned. Lauren mentioned the MPAA bit. I liked that. I thought that was really good. Pretty much everything with Malvert, a comedian known as The Stick, who I tried to find more information about online and could find nothing. Wanted to try to find some of his like stand-up stuff, but to no avail. I liked everything that he did. But overall, it didn't do very much for me. I just didn't find it very funny. It is the rare movie that is produced by the great Alan Smithee. Not a whole lot of production credits for that gentleman. So that was kind of interesting to see, and I wonder what the backstory is there.
Well, that's Michael Ritchie, who is the director of Downhill Racer and The Candidate. He is our Alan Smithee producer here. And it was quite delightful to find that out. I went, well, of course he's not going to call himself the producer of Student Bodies, but it was really fun to discover that. Our writer director is Mickey Rose, and I agree. I mean, comedy and horror are very personal things. I was just delighted by how much it did still land for me. Every time they pick up the phone and the breather is still happening, I'm like, that makes me giggle. The gum thing, I mean, all of his little asides, I was on board with. I love all the characters. We have our principals and our supporting characters. I think all of them are just having a high old time. So it works for me, but I understand it. I mean, I think that's what you would see if you look up the reviews for this movie, as it hits high and low. I feel like it's kind of a Naked Gun 33 1/3 in terms of like where the jokes are. But if you love those movies, you're going to love that kind of movie. And I think Student Bodies, again, works for me, and I understand that it doesn't work for everybody. Wow, we made it, everybody. We are at the end of our journey. Let's do just a quick 30 to 60-second wrap up of what this experience was like. And thank you all so much. Art, let's kick things off with you.
Slasher movies are what I stepped into pretty much when I started doing my deep horror dive as a kid. You know, the first couple of horror movies I remember watching start to finish were Poltergeist and Halloween 3. But right after that, the next ones I saw were the TV cut of Halloween 2 and then the first 5 Friday the 13th movies. And then I was in. And so the slasher film era is really like what I was thrown into. I have a soft spot for these movies. None of these were new to me, but many of them I had not seen in a long time. And it was a rewarding set of rewatches, really a solid group of films. And the fact that 4 out of these 10 movies are being reissued in 2026, 3 just this month. I mean, these are movies still in the zeitgeist, and that's super cool. Maybe surprising to some people, but I think that's super awesome that these movies have not fallen into obscurity.
And we'll go from someone who has seen all of them to someone who had seen none of them. Lauren, what were your thoughts on this?
Man, this is a marathon, not a sprint, guys. To think that y'all also came in and did the first 10. And I saw that list. I'm like, oh, these are big, heavy hitters. And then coming into this list where I did not know any, I came out with some new favorites that I want to show other people now, and I can get physical copies of them, new physical copies of them. It was a really fun, education into deeper into the slasher genre more than I had done previously. I did my whole college thesis on what slashers turned into after Scream. And it's really fun to go back and, really look at what slashers were, what the final girl was, when you're not just talking about Halloween. So I had a really good time, and I am grateful that you guys asked me to come in and do this with you.
Thank you, Lauren. Much appreciated. Fraser.
When I think of all 20 of the 1981 slashers, when I came into this, the ones that I knew the best were ones like, the big heavy hitters, right? Like The Prowler, The Burning, Friday 13th Part 2, My Bloody Valentine, things like that. And those ones all are relatively similar to each other. They're kind of within a sort of a tighter frame. So I was kind of expecting that, based on what we saw in 1980 and based on what I knew here, that we would be further down the sort of, cemented what a slasher is pipeline than we are. I was pleasantly surprised by the variety and how there's still a lot of folks kind of playing with the genre and still trying to figure out what it is here. That was something that I was not expecting, and I was really pleasantly surprised by it, and got to see a lot of really interesting things, like a supernatural element in Deadly Blessing, and the comedy here. Even though it didn't land for me, still the fact that there was this greater variety than I thought really added a ton to the experience for me. I had a great time.
The 20 slasher, it's crazy to think like, oh, we watched 20 slashers. Like, that's crazy. But to me, it was a great experience. I'd love to do this again. And I did like that these 10 were a little lesser, because it's like, oh, Halloween 2, Friday the 13th. Okay. But even Funhouse, which I genuinely love. Like, okay. But just to see stuff that was new to me in a world where I feel like a lot of stuff isn't new to me. Like, I've seen so much. It's been really, really great. But this was probably, if I had to compare the two sets of 10s, I had a lot more fun with this set, just because of how unexperienced with these 10 movies I was, So I loved it.
And Freddie.
Yeah, any excuse to watch slashers is great for me. Especially when it's these 10 films, which I haven't watched in a long time.
Same.
So for me, it's like great. Like, this is a reason to rewatch them, to appreciate them on a different level now that I'm older and I can understand the slasher genre even more. I go, okay, the slasher genre is still kind of figuring itself out in 1981. It's still it's variety still, right? So it's still giallo, it's still supernatural, it's still serial killers. It's still kind of figuring itself out. The tropes aren't really there yet, even though they're starting to pop up, but they're not really there. Especially with these 10. These 10 were very different from the first 10 we talked about. I feel like, for me, that's why they're underseen, because I think the first 10 were popular because they were all pretty much the same in a lot of ways. So I feel like this one is a little more variety. And it's also kind of cool to watch stars that we know now start off in these movies. So like Jennifer Jason Leigh as Sharon Stone, where you kind of go, oh, this is where they started. And I kind of wish a lot of them would talk about their starts more. I know Jennifer Jason Leigh kind of talks about it. She's still kind of into it. But Sharon Stone probably wouldn't put this on her resume, right? That'd be blessing, probably not. So it's always interesting to watch these movies in that context. And yeah, I look forward to doing this again next year. I'm sure that's going to be a major year. So a lot of big stuff came out in 1982.
Cool. Well, I got to say, for me, going through all 20 of these titles was just a joy. And knowing that I was going to have this conversation at the end of that marathon was really the reward of it. So thank you all for bringing your experiences and your enthusiasm and your dedication. Looking forward to having you all on again real soon. And until next time, keep searching, keep exploring, and keep sharing the scare.